Good afternoon. This is the Tech Lunch Roundtable here on Blog Talk Radio. I am Jason.
I'm Mish.
Today is the 26th of March of 2014.
Yay!
Again, this is the Tech Lunch Roundtable where we talk tech and cover tech. Today's subject is disaster recovery. We kind of had started it last week talking about backing up. Which is only part of a whole disaster recovery plan, or DURP.
Derp.
Our website is tamers.biz, B-I-Z, and on that website is links to all of our social media sites, such as Facebook and Google+, YouTube, and Twitter, and Facebook.
Yeah, all the biggies.
With YouTube, you can subscribe to our channels, and when we upload this to YouTube, you'll be sent an email, and then you can watch it or listen to it even at your leisure.
Leisure.
Not listening to it live, or you can just simply download it in the archives from Blog Talk Radio. On our site is also, if you click on radio shows, it has a list of all the shows we've done recently, including today's. I update that usually as we're on the air. But we have links to the show once it's out there. But we also have links to all of our items that we refer to, news, and any other sites that we recommend. So you can go over there and click on that. And also a link to the company that we work with closely, Remote Data Backups is actually what they're called. It is a company that we've dealt with probably since we've been around, so a good dozen years or so. I would say they're a few, maybe a few more dollars than a Carbonite, or I can't remember the other ones. But Mozy is another one, yeah. But one thing I like about Remote Data Backups, not only do you don't even need to deal with us, but they're very personable. But they're also a lot more reliable. We've worked with them in the past recovering data for even a server, actually a couple servers. The data's there. The convenient thing about this, they're really for small businesses, although I believe they are starting to get into the consumer world, but they're really there for the small business. Everything's oriented for the small business. Usually you can reach them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you deal with the folks that actually work on it, not just customer service agents, which don't know poop. And you can also, with their new service, it'll back up to 7 days of data. I'm sorry, 21 days of data, but also 7 copies of that file. And you can actually go in and retrieve them individually or all of them. So if you accidentally delete a file or mess up a file and can't remember which date, or if it's a few days ago, you can log on to a website, download that particular file, and away to go. So
you are happy as a lark.
Link is there for you to go over. Let's see, that's our phone number. If you have any questions or comments or complaints or suggestions, is 818-798-8894. We're on every Wednesday around 2 o'clock Eastern Time here. If you're listening live.
If you're not listening live, that doesn't help you.
Right. And hopefully, again, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. And
go from there. Oh, yeah.
Or on Blog Talk.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course, you just listen to it on the Blog Talk, too. Anyway, so, news?
A couple of big things, what I consider bigger. IRS, and again, this is on our site, tamers.biz. You click on radio shows. You can click on today's Tech Lunch Roundtable for the 26th of March. First one I'd say is, IRS says Bitcoin is now taxable. The Internal Revenue Service has issued a formal notice saying it can tax Bitcoin transactions, calling it a property, not a currency. Bitcoin is, of course, the independent electronic money that's growing in popularity, although I've always even from the beginning, has been hesitant of it. I've wondered if it's really the banksters behind it all.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be this, again, independent, free, free being no regulations attached to it, anonymous electronic money.
Yeah.
They say payments worth at least $600 and made with Bitcoins will be taxed the same way the agency treats property transactions. And that includes payments made with Bitcoins, gains realized by investing in it, and income derived from producing them on your computer, a process known as mining, because you can mine them yourself. It's a very slow process, but you can certainly mine them yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If you pay your employees with Bitcoins, they would have to go on your staff's W-2 forms.
That'd be interesting, because most of the W-2 forms are made for dollars. It has dollar signs everywhere.
Right. So I would assume those are going to be modified to accept. Well, it says the IRS says Bitcoins must be valued at their fair market value at the time you acquire it. That's a bit tricky because the price of Bitcoins changes all day long.
Yeah. What if you acquired it back when it was like 2 cents? But this other Bitcoin you had is now worth $30,000 when you acquired it. That's kind of like, okay.
Right. And it's just because it is becoming in popularity. As a commenter here on it from the article says, the IRS would tax strawberry-scented unicorn farts if they thought they could get any revenue from it. So that pretty much sums it up.
Strawberry unicorn farts. I like it.
This came out yesterday, day before. The article's title is a little, I guess it gets the point across. Microsoft Word is under a hack attack. Do not open documents named .rtf. While the article is written okay from Business Insider, I did link on there the actual security alert from Microsoft, and basically it does say, Microsoft is warning they found out that hackers have found a way to booby-trap certain common Word files that end with the RTF extension, which is
rich text file.
Right, rich text format, which is second most popular probably to Word files. Mm-hmm. Any Word processor can read it. It says it's aware of attacks going on now. There's no fix yet to stop the hackers. They are working on a way to stop the bug. The only way they recommend two things in the security alert is obviously not to open the RTF files. They actually have a fix on their site that will do that for you. This will also, you can also get infected in Outlook by using the preview mode.
Mm-hmm.
Newer versions of Outlook, and this is, by the way, Word 2010, you can just highlight the document and it will show you a preview.
Yes, and get you infected.
Right. So there is a link on there. It's a free tool that will set up to you by blocking all RTF documents. So that's that. And again, the actual security advisory number
2953095.
It goes into detail on actually how it works.
Nerds out of basically on it.
Right. So if you want to understand what that means, the technical details of the exploit, the attack detecting the wild is limited and very targeted in nature. So and they give you, be very, very detailed if you're interested in that.
Thieves can now rob ATMs via a text message. Robbing an ATM now is easy as sending a text message, according to a new report by Symantec, which I didn't know they still existed. That was a joke because Norton kind of blows. Anyway, well, not quite that easy. Thieves still have to connect a mobile phone to the ATM through a USB port and affect the ATM with a Plotus malware. Explained the internet security company in Blog on Monday that involves physically opening the top section of the ATM, used an easy, which is while easy, then forcing your way through the heavy door protecting the cash, still looks somewhat suspicious. And basically, it goes through the how to do it. Basically, you plug in a USB keyboard. You can type in some code. It's actually even a video here. It shows the one guy basically doing it, and basically you basically forcing it to give you money because you're just going into the code, and it's very simplest. So, yeah, meh.
IP address does not constitute a person. Judge rules in a copyright suit. Found this interesting. Of course, I found all the articles interesting, or else I wouldn't put them up here. But
it's true.
Florida judge has ruled that a copyright holder, so a movie, a song,
Douchebag McGee,
holder may not sue a person because their computer was used to illegally download content. It's the latest in a series of decisions making it more difficult for so-called copyright trolls to sue alleged pirates. When a copyright holder, whether it's Warner Brothers, whoever, or another media company, tries to file suit against Internet users who downloaded their content without paying, they generally identify that user with their computer's IP address. And that method of using an IP as the computer's fingerprint has been a reliable legal method since piracy became commonplace over 10 years ago. Yet judges have become more familiar with the intricacies, and anybody in the tech world knew that was poop. It won't identify it, and you'll see. Yet judges have become more familiar with the intricacies of piracy as time goes on, with a number of recent rulings deciding that an IP address alone is not enough to determine whether someone downloaded something illegally. Malibu Media, pornography distributor that filed more than 1,000 suits in 2013 alone, asked the judge to issue a subpoena against a suspected pirate known only by their IP address. The user, 174.61.81.171, was accused of sharing Malibu Media content without the company's permission. So obviously he was probably using BitTorrent or something like that. However, the judge pressed the company to explain how they gained the evidence against 174.61.81.171, which is, of course, the IP address. According to Torrent Freak news site, Malibu Media explained that its software was able to ascertain that the downloader was in a residential address and not a Wi-Fi hotspot, meaning they had to be guilty of downloading the movie. Not so, according to the judge, who wrote that even if Malibu Media can prove that a specific Internet connection was used, that does not prove who is sitting at the keyboard.
You got it.
So, of course, the judge dismissed the case, marking what could be an important landmark for wrongly accused pirates who find themselves on the hook for fines in tens of thousands of dollars. It's exactly what folks in the know knew.
Yes.
Even if you had a static IP address, because most folks who are on the Internet have
dynamic.
Dynamic IP address, which means you can get a different IP address from your ISP anytime. Now, of course, the ISP has a record log of who had that IP address at what time, so they could trace it back to your modem. But or the account, which of course on your modem. But who's to say who is sitting at that computer?
Yep. Uncle Marv could have come over.
Right. Or if you had, and I don't know. Well, I guess they could. Well, I don't. Yeah, I guess they could. It says here they were able. Well, it says they were not. They were able to not. Well, they were able to say it was not a Wi-Fi hotspot. Okay, so I can understand that. But what if you had a Wi-Fi connection in your house, and it wasn't secured, or someone was able to hack into it to get the code if it was secured, and they're sitting in front of your front driveway, downloading the illegal stuff.
Yeah.
So again, this is I think rather significant. I didn't see this in any of the Sun RT Especially today, I didn't see this on any
other mainstream
thing, news.
Just shows that they want to hide the fact that, people download stuff technically illegally, and apparently it's a lot of porn.
Really?
Okay. Are Netflix users ripping off the rest of us? Netflix CEO Reed Hastings is hopping mad at the country's biggest internet service providers, but they got a bone to pick with him as well. Hastings on Thursday Hastings sounded off Thursday on likes of Verizon, Comcast, basically internet service providers that are still around. The others accusing them of sacrificing interest of their own customers, demanding fees to ensure quick delivery of content from Netflix and other data-intensive services. AT&T fired back a day later, calling Hastings' argument arrogant and self-righteous. The dispute flared up earlier this year following news that Netflix streaming speeds for customers of major ISPs were slower as these firms attempted to extract the fee from Netflix to exchange for connecting direct to networks and resolving the issue. Basically, what they're saying is the ISPs are price gouging Netflix for because they're using a lot. Now, I can understand if it was their end, Netflix end, doing it, but if it's on a user's end, it's not Netflix's fault. It's the ISPs, because the end user has Comcast, so they need to deliver that content. They shouldn't have to pay. Netflix shouldn't have to pay these other people. It's kind of like, should I pay the delivery man to bring me my UPS packages, even though it's already been paid for by the sender? No. So why should it's basically it's. I think Hastings is right. I mean, basically they're price gouging him because they're the number one, and plus they're making all this money. They want, just like the IRS one before. Strawberry unicorn farts could be charged. They would charge for them. Well, they do now with cow farts with tax. What's it? Carbon credits. But yeah, so if your Netflix kind of blows, it's not Netflix's fault. It's probably your ISPs. So don't get mad at them when you call them up. Why doesn't this work? I want to watch the show that you used to have a lot more shows. Anyway,
that's true. Microsoft will give you $100 to buy a new PC. And that's if you're still using Windows XP. The only catch is that you have to upgrade to a new Windows 8 computer. Those who are eligible for the promotion can redeem the credit at Microsoft's online store or their retail shops, and the fact that you still use the 13-year-old Windows XP is subject to verification by Microsoft. This is their attempt to get more folks off from XP, which we've talked about April 8th, so in the next couple weeks. They will not be supporting it. I do not know how they prove that you are running Windows XP. You probably need
you'll give them the serial.
Yeah, the product key or something.
Product key
like
or something like that, or some code. They'll tell me your super secret ID.
Apple quick, not much information on this yet, but apparently Apple is in talks with Comcast about a new streaming TV service. Apparently they will be creating a set-top box. This, I guess, would be separate from the Apple TV. But I wouldn't be surprised if it would be included with it. But a set-top box that would stream television for Comcast. And where did I read it? It wasn't in this, but I thought I saw somewhere, I think it was Netflix's shares were down when they heard about this. Comcast, we mentioned this in an article, I think last week or the week before, Comcast is one of the largest ISPs in the nation, so which means they basically own most of the bandwidth in the nation.
Yeah, so they can price gouge us where they want. So it's kind of interesting that Apple's talking, make the set tops, Comcast's going to do the content, and Netflix is getting screwed over by Comcast. Isn't it considered a monopoly, or a not fair use?
Correct. That's what I thought.
I think Netflix has a good litigation. Anyway, actually, this is interesting. It's actually a video, but seen a multiple thing. Now at Home Depots, they have facial recognition cameras for the self-checkout. So, yeah. And most of them are angled so that a lot of them are angled so that the customer service desk is covered too. So it's basically facial recognition, all the people going by. So Minority Report is here at last. Where you walk into it, hi, Mr. Dumbobot. We know that your hemorrhoids have been flaring up. Here's a new laxative.
Right, but as it points out, I think it's a YouTube video, but as he pointed out, it wouldn't be for thieves, because it's not like they would walk up to the register and check out. Yeah, it's like, why does somebody walks up and goes blink, blink, blink. Now I can understand somebody forgot to blink something, but that's an honest mistake. Even the cashiers do. But yeah, I think it's kind of bull crap. Microsoft is defending their right to read your email. Apparently, that article is no longer available. I have it still. Really? Did you click on the link on our website? I clicked on it from the Delicious page. I must have. May not have copied over, but I'll read it while you copy it over. Microsoft's defending its right to break into customers' accounts to read their emails. The company's ability and willingness to take such an approach becomes apparent this week. Microsoft admitted in federal court documents that it forced its way into bloggers' Hotmail account to track down and stop a potential catastrophic leak of sensitive software. The company says that its decision is justified. From the company's point of view, desperate times call for desperate measures. In this case, we took extraordinary actions based on specific circumstances, said John Frank, one of the company's top lawyers, Thursday night. According to FBI complaint, Microsoft in 2012 discovered an ex-employee had leaked proprietary software to an anonymous blogger, fearing that could empower hackers, and Microsoft's lawyer approved emergency content polls of bloggers' accounts to track down the company's investors entering the blogger's Hotmail account and then pouring over the emails, instant messages, and on Windows Live. The internal investigation led to the arrest on Wednesday of Alex
Kerbal, sure, guy, Alex. Alex Kay, a former Microsoft employee based in Lebanon. So what this is basically saying is, screw your rights. We can do anything the frick we want. Because desperate message calls for desperate times call desperate message. Well, what if I'm desperate? I go kill a whole bunch of people and take their stuff. I'll just say, justified. Desperate message, desperate, freaking hell. Yeah. Bull crap. So, then, NWO? Much?
Huh?
NWO much? New World Order? Because that's violating his, even the agreement that he signed is that it says Microsoft will not, it will be private, his private information. He has a nice countersuit for them too.
Right. Speaking of New World Order crap, police are keeping quiet about cell phone or cell tracking technology. Police across the country may be intercepting phone calls or text messages, so that way they can rob ATMs themselves to find suspects using a technology tool known as Stingray.
Probably given by the NSA.
But they're refusing to turn over details about its use or heavily censoring files when they do. What they have said is Stingray, with a suitcase-sized device that pretends to be a cell tower.
That is an NSA device.
It is useful for catching criminals, but that's about all what they'll say. For example, they won't disclose details about contracts with the device manufacturer, which is Harris Corp, insisting that they are protecting both police tactics and commercial secrets, blah, blah, blah.
They're protecting commercial secrets, but they have a device that can basically take secrets.
Basically, the device tricks all cell phones in an area into electronically identifying themselves and transmitting data to police rather than the nearest phone company's towers. So basically, the phone is connecting to it instead of a cell phone tower. And all the data is going through there.
Hope they have a good connection. Because, when you're doing YouTube, just shows that be careful what you do on every device. And wireless devices are not secure. Actually, going back to the one facial recognition thing at Home Depot, I saw on the image, it says no cash, debit, or credit only. Bull crap. Cash is king, baby. Anyway, Silicon Valley is set up with slow internet speed.
Yeah, it goes back to the Netflix thing.
Yeah. Apparently, there's a lot of companies that are basically, pissed off at Comcast and others, other than Netflix. It's the way it goes when somebody is being a dick.
I'm talking about a quarter or a third of the internet traffic in the evenings is them.
Yep.
So it's
a little bit.
The people.
Yeah, it's the people. It's not their fault. It's the people's.
Right. I don't get is all these companies, including Comcast and all, tell us to use the internet. So when we use the internet, they tell us we're. They're here's a cookie. Don't take the cookie. Here's a cookie. You don't take the cookie. It's double information here. I'm just going to sit here and wait until you figure out what the hell you're doing. And I think one of the last things here, a couple more, but Symantec, which is one of the largest antivirus companies, has fired their CEO. This was back on 20th. Or last Thursday, actually. They announced the company director, Michael Brown, will replace Bennett at an interim basis until a permanent replacement is hired. The maker of Norton antivirus software and corporate cybersecurity systems has been struggling with disappointing financial results and is in the process of reorganizing its business. They did say last month, or a couple months ago in January, that it planned to refresh its product offerings with a focus on integrating its services across devices. They employ more than 20,000 people It says 99% of Fortune 500 firms are Symantec customers. So,
last thing is Facebook is to buy virtual reality firm Octor. What? Why can't people just come up with real names, not just a bunch of vowels and maybe a one or two? We'll call them OVR for $2 billion. Basically, what they want to do is make 3D game systems for your head. Yay. Facebook. It's in your brain, your butt. It's a difference.
Could be.
Okay. That's about it for news. So now we get to talk about other stuff. Primarily, DRP, Disaster Recovery Plan / Disaster Recovery in general. Because we talked about last week backing up. You need to back up, blah, blah, blah. It's important. Depending on if your stuff is worth backing up, blah, blah, blah. It's important. But we also talked about having a hard copy and whatnot. But having your data, your documents in digital format is a good idea because it's, well, small. You can fit your entire, your life's history probably on one thumb drive, which then when you look at it, that's it. But a disaster recovery program plan is basically the systematic and codification, basically writing down and figuring out a system. If bad things occur, what do you do? I mean, where's your data going to be? Where's your internet going to be? Where's your power going to come from? Where's your internet? I mean, you can't use your cell phone because you don't have service, or the little Stingray box is the only service in town, and it doesn't have very good signal strength. So the things to be aware of with disaster recovery is the fact that, do you need it? And next thing is, what stuff is basically can you live without, and what stuff is like you crying. So you need to figure out that, because that will help you with also your backup, like what we talked about last week. I mean, we've seen grown men cry. Businessmen, which is funny. I know it's kind of.
So what you're going to want to do is figure out if you do need it, and most businesses would need it, I believe, whether you work out of your home or you have an actual retail spot or an office. And then figure out, basically what I would say is break it down into areas which would be more easily manageable to create and to test out. So you're going to want to go with, what if I have no internet? What would you do? What if your ISP goes down? Or
crawl up in the fetal position in the corner? It will come back. It will come back. Sorry.
And again, this isn't just, the internet's down, you have no power. What if your street that your office is on is going to be closed for 5 weeks because of a hazmat spill or a gas line explosion across the street,
Or martial law is dictated and there's a cop at the end of your driveway and saying, come near and I'll shoot you. And you're like, I'm staying home.
So, break it, internet, phones, cell phones, your data. So if you break it down like that, and if there's other things that you might use, depending on your business.
Medicine. I mean, even from a home, or medicines, water. I mean, if you're not living in a comfortable manner, you're not living in a comfortable manner, which means that your productivity has gone down.
As I've always said, that if you, in the event of a disaster, whatever it may be, if you're not the only one who's affected, if there's others affected too, if it's like a regional area, and you're one of the first businesses that's back up and running, of course you're going to grab the business from the other businesses who are still struggling to figure out what to do.
Yes.
So in the end, it could be a win-win for you because you'll be up and running, offering the services that the folks will be looking for after a disaster.
Correct.
Especially if it's a business like, if it's a disaster, whatever, construction or plumbing or tree removal or debris removal or hazmat removal, that type of thing.
Even if it's just like, you're the local...
computer repairs,
I was going to say convenience store, but okay. Because, if your little blink doesn't work and everybody's like, the bus doesn't work, because most people can't think outside the box. Oh, the price is $3.45 and this one's $2.45. Add those together and please give me that money. Thank you.
You can do, again, research on the internet about disaster recovery plans. They can be very brief or they can be elaborate.
Yeah.
So it all depends on what you want to go with.
Go to YouTube. You can watch a lot of people saying, I need a disaster recovery plan for my porno business. What?
Right. So that's the deal with your employees if you've got employees.
Mm-hmm.
Your disaster recovery may require you to have a alternative site.
Locale.
Obviously, that's expensive, so you probably wouldn't want to rent out a site on the other end of town. Of course, you wouldn't want to do it across the street because in case something happened, or a town down the road. You don't want to be doing that. And maybe you can work out a deal with somebody who has a business in another town an hour away or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You could use their space while yours isn't accessible, and vice versa.
Yeah, you get a little deal going.
Right, and then they could use your site if something happens in their area. So you could work something out like that. But, that way you would have an office area that would have internet, phones, self-service probably, and a place for your business to
locate itself.
Right.
While disaster... And, a lot of the times when people think of disaster, they think of hurricane, volcano eruption, earthquake, big things. But a disaster could be just your power's out. Somebody hit a pole, and the whole place is out of power, and nobody's... And that's the thing. And probably the next step is training. Practice. I have this nice portfolio, all these designs, all the things necessary for to recover from a disaster recovery. It happens, we don't practice it. Well, when it happens. So you need to train on it. So that, people say why do I need training? I know everything. I'm stupid. I'm awesome. Training makes...
Bill?
Huh?
Bill?
Yeah. Huh? Pretty much. Anyway.
But yeah, you can also work out the...
kinks.
You can work out the kinks, exactly. So what we'll need to do... So that way you can work it out in case... So when the poop hits the fan in your area...
You're not scrambling for something else.
Exactly. Obviously, the best thing to do is have another site available.
Mm-hmm.
If you work out of your home, maybe it's a friend's house.
Yep. We have a backup internet here. That's satellite, so in case any landlines going on, we can turn on our generators, and we have internet. Yeah, it sucks, but it's better than nothing. You can at least have communications with the outside. Even if you have, say, a cell phone and you have email on it, and it's one of those satellite phones, which are stupid expensive, but they work anywhere. I don't know if they work in South America. The tip of South America into Antarctica. I haven't checked into that. Anyway, but by practicing and training with it, will make it easier, because that's the thing why disasters are such a disaster is because it's unexpected. You don't expect the power's out. Oh my god! So you freak out. If you know what to do immediately, you don't freak out. It's like, oh, the power's out. Damn. Now we have to just do blah, 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 and then we're good. See, it's like our generators here. They're ready to go. We just have to hook them up. Doop, doop, doop. There you go. We now have power. And we won't have spoiled food. And we have lights and whatnot. And somebody will have heat. My heat comes from wood. Burning wood. So it kind of just happens. So those kind of things are important for disaster recovery. Now, next, well, actually this should be before, but whatever, is Jaison was talking about what is in your disaster recovery. Like, is it like, internet, your TV? Because maybe you're a news blogging site, and you need the internet and you need TV to know what's going on, so you can blog about stuff. Because bloggers apparently are a real vocation nowadays.
Right.
I always stunk that into competitive gamers. Make a couple bucks. Whatever. Is what do you need, and what will you need? Because you got to think of short term. Say it's out for a couple days. Now, if we think about like Superstorm Sandy back in, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago? Actually, it was 2 years ago. Holy crap! Time slows down. We were out of power for almost a week. And that is considerably long term. But what if you're out of power for 2 weeks, 3 weeks? You need a plan for this. Even if the plan is, yeah, we're done, going home. You need to know what you're going to do, in a sense, in any situation. The internet's down for a couple days. Well, use your cell phones. Well, okay, it's been out for a week. Okay, now we go to plan D. Then when it's been out for a full 2 weeks, and everybody else is out too, you go to plan E or plan B, bitch at everybody and complain. Because that also is another thing. Know who your contacts are for power, electrical, water, internet. Have a person that you can actually hold accountable for things that you actually can find information. Because when you call the power company, it's like there are 700,000 people out. There is no recovery restoration estimate. It's like, thanks for nothing. So if you know somebody at the power company, or you learn like there's like Martha in receivable, you call her and she heard from Gary. Yeah, they're gonna be out for the next 2 days. Better information, make better decisions, stuff like that. You got anything over there, big brother?
Just test it out, write everything down. Again, if you do a search online for disaster recovery plans, they have them set up where you just fill in the information, figure out which ones works best for you.
Bing, bada, boom,
and you got to worry about your data too. If you've got like a server in your office, and it's not if it's not backed up off-site, can you get to that server to pick it up, to drop it off at the new office? Is it in a secure location because maybe looters are going around doing bad things? Well, looters do mostly bad things. I've never heard of looting as ever been a positive experience, unless you're the looter. But so, like your server, is the laptop sitting on a front desk somewhere, and it's just sitting there, and they're like, smash. Mine. So this even goes with just daily usage of when you're not there, your devices in your like server or computers locked up, or are they out? Was your data locked up? Because if something bad does occur, there are those jerks out there that will take advantage and probably loot you. there are companies out there, and I forget the name of it now, but what they will do is they're a backup disaster recovery business where you pay and you install the software on, say, your server or even your computers, and it will upload an image of your server and your computers to their system. So if your server becomes unavailable, whether it crashes or you can't get to it, you can actually access a copy of your server
elsewhere.
I'm trying to remember the name of that company.
I remember it, but I don't remember the name.
Right.
If we find it, we'll put it on the show notes.
Right, but yeah, you can.
There are services like that.
Yeah, and basically just do a search for disaster recovery services.
Yeah. Well, I think that is it on DRP, or disaster recovery plans, and basically saving your bacon. So I think that's it for this week. We'll be seeing you next week on the Tech Lunch Run Tab. I am Mish. That's Jason. Good night.